I'm going to have to make an assumption that you can see me, but my eyes are a bit blurry. When I went down to let the chickens out this morning, it was really still and soft. The air, I it's is I think it's dew. They talk about it being dew here, and it's soft. The I haven't looked to see which way the wind's blowing, but it's not quite as cold as it's been. The wind's been coming from the northeast. It's not quite as cold, but it was so still. And I hadn't looked at the forecast. I had no idea what we've got to come. And then I was sitting having my coffee, and the chains on the doors, our fly screen chains, were starting to rattle. And the wind had got up. And looking at the forecast, we've got some quite windy weather due today. But so yeah, there was just that moment of stillness. It was very nice, very noticeable. Obviously, why I'm talking about it. I talked about the hornets on my last vlog, and that we're constantly dealing with hornets. Well, that evening, Mark lit the fire again because it's been really cold indoors, and he lit the fire, and I happened to look behind the fire. Hair somewhere. I happened to look behind the fire and saw a mass, a mass of nest material and hornets, which had obviously, I think the nest has finally collapsed and the whole lot had come down, and there were probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 hornets behind there. I didn't count them. So he got the Karcher out, and he just hoovered them all up. And I think the days of us being kind, because that's what we're like, of letting out, because they're queens, they're all queens hatching. I think they're queens. They may not be. When the nest has collapsed, it's probably not. There's probably whatever you call hornet drones in there as well. But normally we're letting queens out who are wanting to go and find somewhere to nest. And it suddenly occurred to us, hello, is that you, Mrs. Pussycat? Meow. Suddenly occurred to us that what we're doing, because I looked up, came out here and looked up at the chimney, and I can see, yeah, I can see hornets all flying around the chimney, and I think we're letting them out and they're going back up, and it's just an ever continuing circle. So now the Karcher's still out, and any hornet that comes out gets sucked up the Hoover, and it's so quiet now. I think we probably sucked up probably about 5 to 10 last night when we sat down with the fire and watching a film, or watching Line of Duty, which is what we've been watching. So it's definitely, I think we are at the end of it. Thank goodness. It's every year we deal with this, and hopefully, having sucked as many up as we have, we may not have a recurrence next year. I watched Charlie Nebe, Neb, Charlie spelt with an IE at the end, and Nebe, Nebe, last night, who I came across on her main channel, The Stitchery, and I enjoy watching her sewing, doing embroidery, doing whatever she does, because I enjoy listening to her talking and chatting. But she has another channel, a small second channel called Charlie Nebe, where she actually spends time talking about one particular subject that is of interest to her or matters to her. And last night the name of the vlog I watched last night is called "My Brain is a Symphony," and she's talking about what I have known recently as Princess and the Pea syndrome, and I looked it up again, and it comes up also as sensory processing disorder. And quite a lot of what she spoke about last night resonated for me quite heavily. And I've never named it. I think I did name it a year or so ago as Princess and the Pea syndrome. Mark calls me Princess and the Pea, because I am very sensitive to lots of things, labels in the backs of my clothing, some seams in clothing, certain stitching. Yes, I'm not going to go and open the door for you, and don't be nudging my Tripod. Oi, you bad pussycat. Um, so I watched it, and she does an amazing breakdown of all of the layers that are going on in her head. Fascinating. Fascinating if you're me and you're fascinated by stuff like that. Might not be for you. All the layers that are going on in her head, and she describes the layers as you would using an orchestra, the different instruments in an orchestra to describe the layers. It's if you are interested in have sensory processing disorder, have children that have sensory processing disorder, it's well worth watching because it gives you some way of verbalizing it. But it did resonate for me. You know, I have problems with loud noise, bright lights. Quite often we're going along in the car in this cat. I can't pick you up because my arms aren't long enough. I can't. My arms aren't long enough. And if I pick you up, you'll just want to go away. Um, I'll often put sunglasses on when it's not sunny, but it's just that it's too bright. The issues are not issues, but the interesting for me is that I don't like bright light, and Mark likes bright light, and there's this whole conflict of he'll go and buy massively bright bulbs for lighting, whereas I would have them more toned down, and I've just learned to put up with it now. But it's like the other day we have our bulbs go a lot in this house. We've got on the landing upstairs, we've got 3 big globe bulbs, and every so often one of those goes. So we had to go and replace that the other day, and he came back with a bright white one, whereas he's put it in and he went, oh, it's not quite the same. The other 2 are softer white, and I'd go for the softer, and he goes for the bright. I stand in the bathroom or the kitchen doing work, or in the bathroom washing, in daylight, and that's all I need. And he'll come in and turn the light on, and I go, God, you're spoiling me. So yeah, I have issues with light, but anyway, well worth watching if that's of interest to you at all. Um, I just find her quite a pleasure to listen to. It's weird, isn't it? But I find her a pleasure to listen to. What am I reading? Still Life by Sarah Winman. When I spoke about it, I said that I was reading something and I couldn't remember the name of it the other day. I hadn't really got into it. I've really got into it now, and it's very enjoyable. It's very the writing style is really weird, and it takes time to get used to that. There are no quotation speech marks around when people are speaking, so for a while you have to try and work out who's speaking because it's just words. It's in some ways it feels again a bit like with Charlie. It feels a little bit like a stream of consciousness. But once you get into the flow of it, it's a really nice story about a group of people. It starts off in Tuscany at the end of the war, and then comes back to London. And there's one protagonist in Tuscany, and he comes back to London, and then it feels like is more than one protagonist as you move on. But it's yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Well worth reading, but you need to get used to the writing style. I was is that the word? Summarily dumped by my younger sister 2 days ago by email. Really unhappy. Well, really unhappy, really angry with me and my support of probably my lack of support or my anger against Trump, Elon Musk, probably Tommy Robinson. She doesn't mention him. Really angry about that. Really angry that I can feel I can be so vicious and angry about people I don't know. And that sort of made me laugh, because I'm thinking, well, you don't know them either. Neither of us know them in the way that we talk about when we know people. I know what I've seen and I know what stuff I'm taking in, but the only difference between us is that you're taking in a different version to me. And I talked about bubbles the other day. She's in a very different bubble to me. Um, I sort of not surprised. I knew it was coming. There's been a gap since we were over in May, when she came out with some very, very outrageous, what I think, conspiracy statements, believing that Kate Middleton was Princess Catherine, was dead, and they'd replaced her, and or were hiding her, or they were hiding something, or it was like, what? I'm not going to go deep into it, because um, I don't want to deepen the wound. But we came away from there in a bit of shock at her extreme beliefs, and that's not the first time that's happened. So that's the end of that relationship. So I now have two sisters that I am. There's only three of us, by the way, who I am estranged from, and both the other two both support Trump. Well, as far as I know, the other one, I haven't had any contact with her for a long time, but both Trump supporters, and no doubt Elon Musk supporters, and no doubt MAGA supporters. And so yeah, that was not surprising, um, but shocking at the same time. It's something that I've taken a while to process, and that's fine. Um, it's sad, isn't it? And that's what happens. What happens with this, is that we all get polarized, and um, that there's a sowing of division, and families split, families fall out. I have a friend locally who has very similar, different ideas to her sister. I don't know how she's managing that. I don't know how that's being managed, but I suppose it's being managed, because the friend I'm talking about hasn't got a YouTube channel where she's shouting the odds about against Trump. And of course, I am doing that. Now, my sister could have just stopped looking, but she chose not to. Um, so yeah, so that happened. Oh, um, what else? We went for Mark's anaesthetist appointment. Different anaesthetist this time. Hadn't got the same sense of humour as the one we saw the time before, but that's okay. As long as he's good at his job, I don't mind if he doesn't make us laugh. So we did that yesterday morning, and then we did very little. I got a lot of pain again, but I'm managing to. Dark clouds coming over now. I'm managing to avoid gluten more. I'm not sure if it was gluten. I sort of think it may have been. I'd sort of gone off piste a bit with gluten. So I'm back on track with that and avoiding that. Oh, I made soup. We made soup. Now, I couldn't do the vegetables, so I got him to peel the vegetables. So I made butternut squash and carrot soup. Meow, meow. Butternut squash and carrot soup. Haven't made soup for ages, and it was really nice. I roasted the butternut squash. It was really lovely. Why is that tail wet? Eh. So we had that. So we had that for supper, and he made himself croutons to go in that. I can't have croutons, but I really enjoyed it. I had 1.5 bowls of soup, and I think there's enough. And then he had a second helping. So I think there might be enough for a small amount later. I've got salmon out that I'm desperately trying to defrost, that I'll cook later. And that's that, really. Yeah, so very busy clouds up there. I read briefly something about all the floods in Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and there's now 16 people, I think, who have lost their lives in the flooding. And the article I was looking at was about the heat. The Adriatic Sea is warmer, quite a bit warmer than it is normally, And the article was saying, oh, you know, we don't know. It was a French article. We don't know whether we can put that down to climate change, but it will be making a difference to um, the the atmosphere, because more of the water, the warm water, will be evaporating and creating more humidity. So they were sort of suggesting we can expect more of these types of weather events. And of course, other people might see that the Adriatic Sea is warming and think, oh, good, we can go swimming. I'm going to stop there because of the noise behind me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.